You tell me when you're ready.
We're going.
You and I know each other, and those watching may not. My name's Marion Birmingham, and I'm a co-founder of the Eagle Mountain Nature and Wildlife Alliance. And we are interviewing city council members, the mayor, as well as candidates for city council on a topic that's near to us, is the Wildlife Alliance, and that is the wildlife corridor and what's involved in preserving it here in the city. We're doing groundbreaking work.
It's been fun too.
Yeah, we are. It's been a challenge, I know. And what we really hope to do is to be able to help people understand the complexity of what you're doing and how it gets done and what you think of what's going on and what could go on. So we've prepared 3 questions that we'd like you to answer, and take as much time as you feel you need to answer them. So the first question I'm going to ask you is, how important do you believe open space and wildlife are to the residents of Eagle Mountain? And please explain why you believe this.
Well, I think I've been dubbed one of the city council members a big lot guy, and especially open space. That's something I've always been an advocate for. I own animals, and for me it's very important that we keep that open space and lifestyle available to those who are already here and those who are moving here, to keep the opportunity to have animals. I know in the bigger cities, animal people get pushed out in a quick hurry, so keeping open space is vital, and it's also vital to the habitat of the wildlife, which is specifically what we're talking about. Larger lots, wildlife live on residential lots. It doesn't have to be public or private. Sometimes they cross private ground. I have deer that bed under my apple tree and eat all my fruit. And as much as I might think I wish I didn't, I love it, and I don't even, doesn't bother me at all. And I know you at your house probably have deer that bed and stay in your property as well. So the larger lots, of course, is one thing that helps preserve the opportunity for wildlife to move around. It's not just deer, obviously. We're talking about birds of prey, all types of wildlife, from game birds, birds of prey, large game, even coyotes, which are a nuisance sometimes, but it's all part of the ecosystem. So I think as long as we have open space and room for us to coexist with the wildlife, that's greatly important. And I think I'll probably say this in every one of these questions because they all relate, and I don't know when people will see them in what order, but it's important to note that I actually work in the wildlife industry. I make a good portion of my living in the hunting industry, and that's so it's super vital to me. No matter where you're at on hunting is conservation. It's taking care of possibly cull bucks or does or elk, and thinning the herds in order for the habitat to keep a healthier herd. And when you have a healthier herd, the numbers go up. So I mean, I'm as versed as anyone when it comes to wildlife and how they travel and what they need. And I spend at least 6 months a year just strictly in the nature. So it's very important for me to preserve that, both for future generations and for my own lifestyle.
Yeah, I hear that often in the city council meetings when you talk about your experience and your knowledge. It's good. Our second question is, what do you believe to be the most difficult issues faced by the city pertaining to the wildlife corridor, and what tools or incentives would you suggest using to overcome these obstacles? So
this is a funny statement that I'm going to make. Oddly enough, as the Wildlife Alliance has brought different things forward, I've typically voted in the wrong direction for what I think they were hoping for, but generally for a better outcome. And it's not because I'm not in favor of preserving or maintaining that, but it's the obstacles, and probably more so that I do have an actual knowledge of certain things that I might not, maybe it's greater than the knowledge of some others or something, and it makes it harder for me to get to a certain spot when I know a little bit more about how things might operate. Obviously, Sean Reed is the one that knows everything about birds. I wouldn't dare even go there, but when it comes to the large game and stuff, I know how they travel. I know how they can get around fences and things like that. So it's been hard for me to bring them all together, even as much as I want to. Sometimes that's a challenge. But to the question, the biggest challenge is land. You know, preserving the corridor. It's mostly private property where we're at, and obtaining those easements and things like that are very difficult. And getting landowners, they have rights, and they deserve those rights. And so it's something that we have to work out. And I put forth a great effort to make sure that we've been able to work with those landowners and make it worth their while to preserve, and also the washes, which is the best thing that we have in our favor as a city, to try to preserve those washes, because they're not getting built on anyhow. And anyhow, the biggest challenge is obviously the land. It's obtaining the land. But again, that's one of those things when we were talking about the crossing where we crossed Pony Express. There's a development coming in
Right.
for a specific instance, and I told them a lot of the council members weren't willing to give up some of the other ground in order to make that crossing work. And I'm willing to go as far as eminent domain to buy a parcel, put our money where our mouth is, to make that crossing work, even if we have to pay market value. So, like I say, as much as it's maybe been on both sides of that on the vote, I'm always trying to preserve, and behind the scenes, if we have to pay for the land to make this work, I'm willing to go to that extreme. And luckily on this particular case, it worked out, I'll say. It's still, I like to say the jury's still out in a lot of cases, but we didn't have to use eminent domain, and we did not have to purchase that land. We were able to make a little bit of a land swap. And although I'm still concerned about the way that necks down and how that's all going to turn out, it definitely worked. And I did vote for that one. I was one that, in fact, not only voted for, but championed and from the stand, and got the others to work through that area, which was, and again, I'm going to point this out, the bike park's in that same area. So we have the Wildlife Corridor and the Wildlife Alliance that wants one thing, and the bike people that want another, and the landowner that wants something totally different, and trying to navigate through all that. At the end of the day, I feel like the council did their best to get kind of a win-win-win for everybody. And although it's not perfect, those are some of the challenges that we definitely battle. And it's shown that I've been willing to do whatever it takes to make sure we don't lose what we've already got. Because we do have a good start, and I want that to keep going.
And we do have a good start. Yeah, you've been doing groundbreaking work.
Perfect. And I always ask this at the end, did I answer the whole question?
I feel that you did.
Okay.
Our last question, in your opinion, is Eagle Mountain City doing enough to preserve open spaces and the wildlife corridor? And if not, what else can the city and its residents do?
Man, that's a loaded question. I think, first of all, I want to point out that some things are matters of fact, and other things are matters of opinion. So if I get to lean on my opinion, I'd always want more, right? I think everybody should have 20 acres and to themselves and have all this open space. But again, I also realistically, landowners have rights to develop. So the real honest answer is do the best we can to come up with the best product to preserve as much open space and yet not infringe on property rights of others any more than you want them to infringe on your property, whether that's large or small. It's yours, and they have the same rights. So again, I think the question's opinion piece, and I would love to do more, and I think the city could do more, but doing the best we can. And I'm going to advocate to do more, but it takes all 5 of us on the stand and 6, the mayor and even staff to land in a place that you can all come together. And a lot of times that has compromise, but which I understand, and that's why a lot of times I push over here and try to really get strong, and then know that as long as we're at least somewhere from the middle to my side, that it's a win.
Yes.
Right? So that's the best that I can do, I feel.
I hear you talking about the difficulties of balance, and I see that. So, and I thank you very much for taking the time to come and talk to us, and look forward to seeing what else happens in the city, and with your help, what we can do. So thank you so much, Jared.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thanks for having me, and hopefully that clears up some of the wildlife questions for me.
Thank you.